श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। वागीशाद्यास्तु मनसः सर्वार्थानामुपक्रमे यन्नत्वा कृतकृत्यास्यस्तन्नमामि गजाननम्। शारदा शारदाम्भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रियात्। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। प्रमाणनखनिर्भिन्नमहामोहामरारये नमस्कुर्मो नृसिंहाय स्वप्रकाशचिदात्मने। वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। भारती करुणापात्रं भारती पदभूषणं भारती पदमारूढं भारती तीर्थमाश्रये। विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानामालयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। श्रीमते शङ्करार्याय धीमते द्भुतशक्तये नमोऽस्त्वद्वैतसिद्धान्तस्थापनोपात्तमूर्तये। So as we did the last few classes, we will start with going over the last few shlokas. Vedo nityamadhiyatam taduditam karma svanushtiyatam teneshasya vidhiyatam apachitihi kamye matistyajyatam papaughah paridhuyatam bhavasukhe doshonusandhiyatam atmechhavyavasiyatam निजग्रहात् तूर्णं विनिर्गम्यताम् संगसत्सु विधीयताम् भगवतो भक्तिर्दृढाधीयताम् शान्त्यादिः परिचीयताम् दृढतरं कर्माशु सन्त्यज्यताम् सद्विद्वानुपसेव्यताम् प्रतिदिनं तत्पादुकासेव्यताम् ब्रह्मैकाक्षरमर्थ्यताम् श्रुतिशिरोवाक्यं समाकर्ण्यताम् वाक्यार्थश्च विचार्यताम् श्रुतिशिरः पक्षः समाश्रीयताम् दुस्तर्कात् सुविरम्यताम् श्रुतिमतस्तर्कोऽनुसन्धीयताम् ब्रह्मास्मीति विभाव्यतामहरः गर्वः परित्यज्यताम् देहेऽहं मतिरुज्यताम् बुधजनैर्वादः परित्यज्यताम् क्षुद्व्याधिश्च चिकित्स्यताम् प्रतिदिनं भिक्षौषधं भुज्यताम् स्वाद्वन्नं न तु याच्यताम् विधिवशात् प्राप्तेन सन्तुष्यताम् शीतोष्णादिविषह्यताम् न तु वृथा वाक्यं समुच्चार्यताम् औदासीन्यमभीप्स्यताम् जनकृपानैष्ठुर्यमुत्सृज्यताम्. So now we come to the final shloka. Let's see where Lasya is. Ekante sukhamasyatam
Ekante sukhamasyatam Ekante sukhamasyatam
paratare chetas samadhiyatam
Paratare chetas samadhiyatam Paratare chetas samadhiyatam
Ekante sukhamasyatam paratare chetas samadhiyatam
Ekante sukhamasyatam Paratare chetas samadhiyatam Ekante sukhamasyatam Paratare chetas samadhiyatam
Purnatma susamikshyatam
Purnatma susamikshyatam Purnatma susamikshyatam
Jagadidam tadbadhitam drishyatam
Jagadidam तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम्
पूर्णात्मा सुसमीक्ष्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम्
पूर्णात्मा सुसमीक्ष्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम् पूर्णात्मा सुसमीक्ष्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम्
प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम्
प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम्
चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम्
चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम् चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम्
प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम्
प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम् प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम्
प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम्
प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम्
अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम्
अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम्
प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम्
प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम् प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम्
पूर्णं श्लोकं वद
एकान्ते सुखमास्यताम् परतरे चेतः समाधीयताम् पूर्णात्मा सुसमीक्ष्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम् प्राक् कर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् चितिबलात् नाप्युत्तरैश्लिष्यताम् प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम्.
Very good. So before we start the meaning for today, the way the class will work is, as usual, we'll go over the meaning. I will leave some 5-10 minutes for questions. And then we have a special guest, a Vishesh Atithi, who will give us an important message. So that is the way we'll do that. So where did we leave off yesterday? So we have finished all the academic processes that need to be done in order to help one with getting to Brahmajnana. Then we talked about the way one must conduct, bhiksha and not look for food and not be worried about food. How, this is going into very deep introspection, right? It is being called antarmukha, being faced inwards rather than outwards towards the world. So you are being more quiet. You are not interfering with other people. You do not have too much pity or anger towards anyone. So in that same vein, now, ekante sukhamasyatam. Ekante means in solitude. Sukham, pleasantly, asyatam, may it be sat. So may you sit, basically. So may you sit pleasantly in solitude, alone. Because whenever Bhagavan says in Gita, vivikta desha sevitvam aratir janasamsadi, are the qualities of these jnanis. So because they have no need for other people, they generally favor to be alone. And especially for the sadhaka that is letting go of the last fragments of attachment and last fragments of these ragadveshas that he has. So it is very important for him that he be in a removed place from the world. Ekante sukhamasyatam. So sit peacefully. Sukham, why? Because do not put yourself in a place, again, as we said yesterday, the body needs to be comfortable first. Not so comfortable where it's falling asleep, but comfortable enough where you do not worry about this hurts or that hurts or this injurious to my health or such. So sukham ekante asyatam. And what am I supposed to do there? Paratare chetas samadhiyatam. Paratare. So in the beyond the beyond. So in the Purna Paramatma, in the Paramatma, chetah samadhiyatam. Samadhi means to dissolve. Dissolution is what it means. So may the manas, the chetaha, be dissolved in Paramatma. May your manas get dissolved in Paramatma. Then Purnatma Susamikshyatam. So one thing to say is from here onwards now, the rest of this is kind of the phala. So there is another phala shruti after this, but this is kind of what the result of the sadhana, if the sadhana is done perfectly, as Bhagavad Pada has described in the last 4 shlokas, this is what the result will be like. So he says, may the Atma be seen, may the world be dissolved, and may the karma be destroyed and whatnot. But in reality, what it is this is what ends up happening. So Purnatma Susamikshyatam. What kind of an Atma should you be looking at? Purnatma. Purnascha ayam Atma Purnatma. The Atma that is Purna. Purna means that which is filled, also that which fills. Right? So Atma is full of itself and it also fills this world. So basically, you should understand Atma as pervading each and every atom of this world, right? In the same way that mud permeates every single part of the pot. In the same way, Atma is that, or Paramatma, permeates each and every single atom of this prapancha. So Purnatma Susamikshyatam. Make sure you are seeing and understanding and knowing Paramatma as permeating this entire world. And then what happens? Jagadidam tad badhitam drishyatam. Idam jagata, this world, tad badhitam. So the tat refers to Paramatma. So Paramatmana badhitam or Atmana badhitam. Purnatmana badhitam drishyatam. You see the world as badhita by that Paramatma, as experiencing badha by that Paramatma. Badha is not suffering here. Badha is a Vedantic concept wherein something is understood to be not real. Right. So you have the classic rope snake story. You see a rope, you think it is a snake. So you see a snake. After a while, you turn on a light or something and you realize that there is no snake there but a rope. So where did that snake go? Right? Where did the snake go? You saw a snake until then you saw a rope. Where did the snake go? So it dissolved back into the rope. That dissolution of something that is not real is called badha. So what happens to the Jagat is until now, the Jagat is separate from Paramatma. The Jagat is something with names and forms. The Jagat is something with multiplicity. But now what happens is the Jagat ceases to be Jagat and is instead seen only as Atman, only as Paramatma. So what happens, the Jagat has been understood to be not actually the Jagat, but Paramatma in reality, right? That is what we call Mithya. So Mithya is something that is only real as far as transactions go, but not in its true nature. Satatvataha, anyataha pratha. So its true nature is different. Atatvataha, anyatha pratha. Its true nature is not that, but it is being taken as something else. So, although the only true natures of anything that exist are Sat, Chit and Ananda, we are instead taking it to be the namas and the rupas of the Jagat, right? So, that is why in Panchadashi they say, Asti bhati priyan nama rupa mityamsha panchakam. Adyantrayan Brahma Rupam Jagad Rupan Tatodvayam. So there are only 5 qualities in this world. Asti, existence. Bhati, shining, Chaitanya. Priyam, Ananda. Nama, name. Rupam, form. If you look at anything in this world, it will fall into some category of these 5. Ityamsha Panchakam. Such there are 5 things. Adyam Trayam Brahma Rupam. The first 3 of these, the Satchit Ananda aspects belong to Brahman. Jagadrupam Tatodvayam. The next 2, the Nama and Rupam belong only to the Jagat. So if we keep viewing the world in terms of the Nama and Rupa, we are not seeing it for its true nature, which is Paramatma. Because the existence and consciousness only exist for the Paramatma. So that Badhitam means we understand that the Jagat is not made up of Nama Rupas, or that Nama Rupas are not completely real, but rather they are vikaras, they're facets or they're changes that are seen in the underlying reality, which is Paramatma. So Jagadidam tad badhitam drishyatam. Then what happens to my karma? Prak karma pravilapyatam. So before this, I need to explain about karma. There are three types of karma: prarabdha, sanchita, and agami. So sanchita karma is the bank balance. So all the karmas that we have amassed over the crores and crores of births that we have taken until now. Then you have agami karma, which is the karma that we will be committing in the future. And then you have the third one is prarabdha karma, namely the karma that is attached to this body, the karma that this body was taken to experience. So the only reason anyone takes birth is because they have karma. If you have karma, you're guaranteed a birth. Birth exists only as a universal tendency of righting the balance of karma, right? So just as energy balances, the universe will do something to balance out energy. The universe will do something for the sake of matter to be balanced out. In the same way, the law of karma dictates that all karma must be balanced out at some point. So it is that balancing of karma that necessitates various janmas. So for that sake, if we are born, it is guaranteed that we have karma. So, but once we are born with a specific packet. It's like an allowance, right? So our parents have a bank account. They send you on a field trip, right, to a student. They send a student on a field trip and they give him $50 and they say, use these $50 while you are on the trip. So what happens, although the student has funds in the form of his parents, he only has $50 to spend in that trip. In the same way, we only have our prarabdha karma to spend with this body. Once the prarabdha karma is spent, this body will fall. This body will not fall until all the prarabdha karma is spent. And this body will not stay for a second even after all the prarabdha karma is spent. Every single working of this world is based on all of our experiences in this world are based on prarabdha karma. If you have remaining prarabdha karma, you will continue to live. If you have no more prarabdha karma, you will drop dead that instant. You can be the most well-protected person, you can have the best health, you can have a support system around you, but the second your prarabdha karma is done, that's it, game over. So our job is to make sure that once the prarabdha karma is exhausted, there is no more cause to take a breath, right? So we said an existing balance of karma, the sanchita karma, the bigger bank balance, if that is a positive number, if there is an existent amount of sanchita karma, you will take a breath. There is no force in heaven and hell that can stop that. But so therefore, what our job is to do is, how do you get rid of this sanchita karma? So there we get jnanagni dagdha karmanam, right? Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute arjuna, or bhasmasat kurute tatha, right? So the fire of jnana burns that sanchita karma. So once we get jnana, that is when we can finally make the balance of sanchita karma into will. But one thing to note though is that the prarabdha karma stays. Why? Because the body is still here. As long as the body exists, there is still some karma that the body needs to experience, which is why we see even jnanis like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Ramana Maharshi getting illnesses, getting sicknesses. They also have some sukhas and dukkhas for the body. The reason why they still go through all of that is because the prarabdha karma is still attached to the body. And then the third type of karma that we talked about, agami karma, the karma that is yet to be done, no need to worry about it. It is agami. It has not yet been done. And furthermore, when do we accrue a karma phala? When you do a karma with abhimana. Abhimana means with a sense of ownership, that aham enam karma karomi or etat karma karomi. When you have that feeling, that then gives you abhimana towards that karma and therefore makes you the recipient of that karma phala. When a jnani does something though, right, they do it without that attachment. The body is doing it. Guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate, right? So the body is doing whatever the body is doing. I am not the karta is what the jnani feels. So therefore, because he does not have ownership in his mentality towards this karma, he does not get the karma phalita. Therefore, the sanchita karma is burnt. The agami karma is non-existent anyway. So all that jnani has to do is wait out the rest of this life for the prarabdha karma to be used up. And then once he passes away, once the body is left off, there is no sanchita karma that will necessitate him to take another birth. So therefore, he remains as Satchidananda. That is the process of this. Now, Advaita is the only Siddhanta that accepts Jivan Mukti. So this concept of these karmas being burnt while the, the jnani is still embodied, the fact that you can experience moksha here and now in this world is only accepted by Advaita Vedanta. The concept of Jivan Mukti, right, or being a Jivan Mukta, Jivancha aso muktascha, one who is still alive, namely with the body and also in moksha sthiti, is only allowed by Advaita. In all other darshanas, you have to die and go to Vaikuntha, die and fly off to Kailasa, die and run off to Goloka or Sakitaloka somewhere. For that is not there in Advaita. You can get moksha here and now. There is no need to run off somewhere else, and there is no one else that gives you moksha. Moksha is for you, by you, now and here. So that Jivan Mukta will experience moksha in this world, and once the prarabdha is burnt off, then he will experience videha mukti, wherein he exists in moksha sthiti without the body. So that is why Bhagavad Pada now says, if you look at the Bhakti here, Prak karma pravilapyatam. Pravilapyatam means to be dissolved. So prak karma pravilapyatam. May that the purva karmas, right? So the sanchita karmas, may they be dissolved. Due to what? Chitibalat, chitranama jnanam. Right? Again, we have this tin pratyaya that is in bhavartha. Sajanati jnanam. Right? Chi dhatu chiti. Tin pratyaya. So jnati, kind of like that. Right? So chiti balat, by the power of jnana or by the force of jnana, may the sanchita bala be destroyed. So here is chiti balat, the Vyakyakara is right here. Purvatra paratra api yujyate. So prakarma pravilapyatam due to what? Chiti balat. And also na api uttareshlisyatam, and you shall not be connected with karmas to come. Why? Because of chiti balat, because of the power of jnana, because you no longer have abhimana, may you no longer also be connected with the karmas to come in the future. Right? Because the jnani will still eat, he will still sleep, he will still breathe. You cannot, right? Nahi kaschit kshanapi jado tishthat yakarma krit. It's impossible for anyone to stay without doing anything. But the karma phala will not touch him because of the power of jnana. So prak karma pravilapyatam chitibalat napyuttarai shlishyatam. So get rid of the sanchita karma with jnana, and with due to the power of jnana, you shall not also be connected to agami karmas. But then what about prarabdham? Prarabdham tviha bhujyatam. Experience. So bhuj dhatu does not just mean to eat. Any bhoga. Bhoga means experience. Prarabdham tviha bhujyatam. May you experience the prarabdha. Atha parabrahmatmana sthiyam. We'll get to that later. So now, the state of a jnani is something we must understand. They will walk among us. They will do things among us. Not because they need to, but loka sangraham evartham. For the sake of showing us what must be done. So we have all these acharyas that are the pinnacles of sampradaya, that are the paragons of achara. They follow shastra to the dot. Even though nothing they do will touch them, right? They have jnana, nothing they do will touch them. In the same way, their sanchita is gone. They are not getting any more agami. They have no reason literally to follow any vidhis or nishedhas. But the reason, if we see jnanis following these rules, it is for our sake, to teach us how to be. If we see jnanis that do not follow these rules, where there are people in the Avadhuta Sampradayas, etc., people who are called Atyashravis and things like that, we cannot apply that to ourselves because they're in a much different state than we are. They have no more fear of karmas affecting them, no more fear of accruing more karmas. For us, though, we must be very cognizant that, see, we have karma anyway. We are not burning our karma anytime soon. So we must do our best to limit the papa karmas and increase the punya karmas. Right? So which is why, for the jnani though, prak karma pravilapyatam, sanchita is burnt, chitibalat, napyuttarai shlishyatam, no more agami karma is accrued, and prarabdham tviha bhujyatam, prarabdha is experienced by means of the body. Now in some places, Bhagavad Pada actually says, for example in the text Aparokshanubhuti, Bhagavad Pada actually says that even prarabdha is not experienced. Because now that the jnani is situated as Atman, Atman does not experience karma. So therefore, because the jnani is Atma, the jnani also does not experience prarabdha. The body experiences prarabdha. The jnani is not the Atma. Therefore, the jnani does not experience prarabdha. It's another way to look at it. It's pretty much saying the same thing. That, it will not touch the jnani. It will only happen to the body. So once you have done all of this, so to recap, from the first shloka. So once you have done proper study of Vedas and Shastras, once you have done Nitya Naimittika Kamya Karmas as per Veda, once you have practiced offering all of these karmas to Ishvara as puja to Ishvara, as offering to Ishvara, once you have given up your desires for Kamya Karmas, once you have washed off your papas, once you have understood the flaws in samsara sukha, once you have strengthened your desire for Atma, once you have left your house and all your worldly connections behind to pursue a life of serious philosophical inquiry, once you have kept company with wise men, once you have strengthened your bhakti towards Bhagavan, once you have acquired the Shamadamadi Shatka Sampatti, the Shamadama Upramati Diksha Shraddha Samadhana, once you have completely cast off all karma and taken up sannyasa ashrama, once you have approached a Sadguru, a knower of Brahman, once you have approached a Brahmagyani, and once you have served him every day, once you have desired to know Brahman, which is Eka and Akshara, singular and undecaying, and once you have done Shravana under that Guru, once you have heard the Upanishads under that Guru, and then once you have done Vichara, once you have made your efforts to understand the meanings of these Mahavakyas like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahma, Brahmasmi, etc. Shruti Sharaf, once you have understood the holdings of the Upanishad, once you have understood the conclusion that the Upanishad presents, once you have desisted, once you have ceased from Dustarka, which is Tarka that is not in line with Veda, as well as Tarka that is flawed. And once you have understood or applied Tarka in line with Veda, once you have applied logical reasoning in line with Veda's conclusions, once you have done Nididhyasana, once you have done Manana, once you have contemplated upon the fact that I am Brahman, I am Brahman, I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, and then constantly Aharaha, and then once you have cast off the Jnanitva Abhimana, right? Once you have cast off the feeling that I am knowing this, I am learning this, I am doing this process, I have studied this Shastra, I am now doing this. Once you have left off that Abhimana of Jnana, and then Dehe Ahammati Ujjatam, once you have left off all I-ness in the Sthula and Sukshma Shariras. So basically, once you have left off all feelings of I-ness towards the gross body or towards the Antahkarana, and once you have relinquished or desisted from arguments and debates with Panditas, once you have only taken Bhiksha for the sake of Bhiksha, once you have only taken Bhiksha and medicine for the sake of assuaging, for the sake of taming hunger and disease, once you have not desired good food, once you have come to terms, just accepted whatever it is that fate brings you, once you have been able to tolerate the dualities of hot and cold, happiness and sorrow, etc., once you have stopped yourself from saying anything that is unnecessary, once you have restrained yourself from all unnecessary speech, once you have been able to get equanimity, neutrality towards all happenings, once you have relinquished over unnecessary mercy or unnecessary cruelty towards people, once you have sat in solitude, merged, dissolved your mind into that Brahman, then understood that it is Brahman that permeates this entire world. And once this entire Jagat becomes sublated, becomes dissolved, and you only see it as Brahman. And then once your Sanchita Karma becomes destroyed, and you are assured that you will not acquire any more Agami Karma, and once you have understood that Prarabdha will be experienced regardless, then once you have done these 39 steps that Bhagavad Pada has told us, Atha, that is what that Atha means. So now you are an Adhikari to experience Brahma. So Atha, once you have done all of this faithfully, as per Shastra, under a Guru, with a Guru's grace and Ishvara's grace, then at that point, Parabrahmatmanasthiyatam, may you exist as Parabrahman, nothing more, nothing less, that is it. Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. Neha Nanyadasti, Neha Nanasti Kinchana. Right? So may you at that point, you are Brahman. You literally Parabrahmatmana sthiyata means may you exist as Brahman, is what that last line is. So the phala of all of these karmas, of all of these upasanas, of all of these shravana manana nididhyasanas, of all of these shastra vicharas, of all of these tyagas, is this the existence as kevala satchidananda. So that is the journey that Bhagavat Pada is telling us to go on. So now I was kind of in a flow, so I did not stop. Now I will quickly tell you the Padacheda. Ekante sukham asyatam paratare chetah samadhiyatam purnatma susamikshyatam jagat idam tadbadhitam drishyatam prakkarma pravilapyatam chitibalat na api उत्तरैहि श्लिष्यतां प्रारब्धं तु इह भुज्यतां अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्थीयताम् ekante in solitude sukha pleasantly asyatam may you be seated paratare in ishvara or in brahman chetah the mind samadhiyatam may it be dissolved purnatma the atma that permeates everything susamikshyatam may it be properly seen, well seen, intently seen. Idam jagat, this world, tad badhitam drishyatam, may it be seen as being sublated by knowledge of that Paramatma. Parak karma, so the sanchita karma, pravilapyatam, may it be destroyed. Chiti balat, by the strength of jnana. Napi uttaraihi shlishyatam, uttaraihi, with karmas to come, nashlishyatam, may you not be attached. Shlishyatam means to be attached. Nashlishyatam, may you not be attached. With what? Uttareihi karmabhihi, with karmas to come. Prarabdham tu iha bhujyatam, iha means here and now in this world, asmin loke. May that prarabdha be experienced here. Atha, finally, after all of this, now, henceforth, parabrahmatmana, as parabrahma, sthiyatam, may you exist. Okay, so that is the meaning of this shloka. Are there any questions? Parabrahmatmana. So Atmana means with that nature. With Parabrahmaness, may you exist, is what it is. The Tritiya Vibhakti. So Parabrahmatvena tishtatu. And then in Karmani, Parabrahmatvena sthiyatam. Parabrahmatmana sthiyatam. With Parabrahmaness, may you exist, is how it is. So it is not may you stay with Brahman. It is may you exist as Brahman. Or with Brahmanas. May you exist with Brahmanas. There is a question in the chat. The 5 facets of existence. Asti, bhati, priyam, nama, rupamityamsha panchakam. Asti, it exists. Bhati, it shines. So Chaitanya, Jnana. Asti, bhati, priyam, it is dear. You know, it is bliss. It is ananda. Nama, name, and rupa, form. So these 5 facets are everything that we see around us. Anything that we see is made up of some permutation or combination of these 5. So of these 5, Adyam Trayam Brahma Rupam, the first 3, the Asti Bhati Priyam, the Sat Chit Ananda aspects of everything. So, you know, for example, there is a chair. The chair exists. That existence of the chair is Brahman. The chair is visible. That visibility or that knowingness is Brahman. So Asti Bhati. And then the Anandamsha is Tirohita, meaning the Anandamsha is covered up by other things, but we see it in things like when something is dear to us, that dearness is Brahman. So these 3 are aspects of Brahman. The Nama and Rupa belong only to the Jagat and not to Brahman. These are made due to Maya. Right? So that is the 5 facets of existence. Shlishyata means to be attached, as I said. The 4 main Mahavakyas. Prajnanam Brahma from Rigveda, then Aham Brahmasmi from Shukla Yajurveda. There is an Ahamasmi Brahma, Ahamasmi in Krishna Yajurveda. And then Tattvamasi from Samaveda, very famous, one of the most important in Chandogya. And then Ayamatma Brahma from Atharvana Veda. Those are the 4 Mahavakyas. Oh, the different types of bhiksha. Sorry, I forgot to look at that shloka, but I will note it down and then I will find some way to post it to all of you. I think I can email the group in mass. There was also another shloka, the different types of bhiksha, and what they meant. So those two I will send. I forgot to look at that. I was a bit busy today. There was a puja happening here. So tad badhitam meaning. So badha is the process of something less real being sublated, being understood to be not real. Right. So when, as I said, let me repeat the snake and rope story. So you see a rope, you think it is a snake, right? So for time being, you are seeing a snake. After some time, the light is turned on, or you get a flashlight, or you realize that it's not moving or something. Then you realize it is not a snake; it is a rope. So what happens to the snake is badha. The snake is understood to be not real, and in reality, something else. So the process of something being understood to be not real or not true is called badha. So if you see a shell and think it is silver, once you realize it is not silver, the silver undergoes badha. The understanding that the silver is not real. That is badha. So here, and the badha happens due to what is called adhisthana jnana. The substratum's knowledge is what causes badha. So for example, the snake is imposed on the rope. So understanding of the rope causes badha of the snake. Right? In the same way, the silver is imposed on the shell. Understanding of the shell causes the badha of the silver. In the same way, this Jagat is imposed on Paramatma. Therefore, understanding of Brahman, this Jagat is imposed on Brahman. Therefore, understanding of Brahman causes badha of the Jagat, which is why Jagat is tad badhita. Tat means that Paramatma, that Atma, Brahman. So tad badhita means that which has undergone badha by Jagat. That is the tad badhitam. Then another question is, are all four Mahavakyas Advaitic in nature? As we hold it, yes, all of Veda, Paidikshita says, Yadyap Yadvaita eva Shrutishikharagiram Sagamananja Nishtha Sakam Sarveh Puranehi Smritinikara Mahabharata Adi Prabandhehi Tatreva Brahmasutranya Picha Vimrishatam, he says. So Advaita is not only the nature of the Mahavakyas. Advaita is the nature of all Upanishads. Advaita is the nature of all of Veda. Advaita is the nature of all the Smriti Granthas, all the Itihasas, all the Puranas, all the Kavyas, all the Tantras. Advaita is the meaning of everything. Everything put together gives us only Advaita. Now, obviously, there are different darshanas will interpret them differently. For example, Vishishtadvaita takes Tattvamasi to mean Tadiyastvamasi. So like Tasyattvamasi, you belong to that. Not you are that, but Tadiyastvamasi. And for them, Tat means Vishnu, Chaturbhuja Vishnu, who exists in Vaikuntha, who has those four Vyuhas, Pradyumna, Niruddha, Sankarshna, Vasudeva. From the Vasudeva, everything else came. So they have their own theology. So for them, Tattvamasi means you belong to Vishnu. Right? And then the Dvaitins take it as Atattvamasi, because in the Upanishad, it is Tadatma, Tadatma Tattvamasi. Right? Tadatmimidam Sarvam, Tat Satyam, and then Tadatma Sishvetaketo. Right? So that in that Atma Tattvamasi, there is a Dirgha there anyway, because Atma is Pullinga. So they say that there is a Savarna Dirgha Sandhi and Atma Atattvamasi. You are not that. Which quite frankly is between us a bit impractical, just because of there are no padapathas that do that for Veda, and also it is very jarring given the prakarana, given that the prakarana is sadvidya, so there is no reason to randomly throw something in the middle and say atattvamasi. And all the examples that are shown as as yatha ekena, mrityana, with the knowing of mud, the pot, with the knowing of a thread, the cloth, things like this are given. So there is quite frankly no reason for the Shvetaketu's father to point out that, oh, you are definitely not that. And there is also no pramanika padapatha, right? So we cannot just break up Veda any which way. So all the pathas that are given are, Atma Tat Tam Asi. So whatever it is that is their sampradaya, we do not have to associate ourselves with them. So Mahasanidhanam Varu said in Vakyartha actually, Kimasmakam paramata doshanena paradveshakarena. Tad aswarasya matram upanyasaniyyam is what he said once in Vakyartha Sabhas in Chennai. He said, Kimasmakam paramata doshanena paradveshakarena. Tad asarata matram upanyasaniyyam. So basically what that means is there is no reason to argue with other darshanas, right? Because all that does is increase dvesha towards them. All that needs to do is for us to understand, we just only need to understand the problems with such understanding. So we can just say, we find this understanding of this Mahavakya to be impractical, or we find this system to have these particular flaws. But there is no reason to make it a goal to go against some system. But for us as Advaitins, as Anuyayins of Bhagavad-pada, yes, these Mahavakyas are all Advaitic in nature. And specifically the Advaitic definition of a Mahavakya is something that teaches Advaita between Jiva and Ishvara. So yeah, all the Mahavakyas are Advaitic in nature. Is Dvaita, Advaita, and such Siddhanta independent of deities? Depends, right? So there is Shiva Dvaita, which is, has Shiva. There is, Vishishta Dvaita, which takes Vishnu. Dvaita also takes Vishnu. So there are certain deities for all the Bheda Vadins, for everyone that takes Bheda to be existent as inherent in this Prapancha. They all have deities. Advaita does not. For us, all devatas are just manifestations of the same Brahman, same Ishvara. Viparyaya. I forget. I don't know what I was saying when the question was asked. Is it the same as Viparyaya? But yeah, not sure what when that question was asked. In real life, Badhitam is understood differently. The mind undergoes Badha. So here, Badha does not mean suffering. So the mind does not undergo Badha. This Badha does not mean suffering. This Badha is a technical term. It's a Shastric term, which means the understanding of something to not be real. Okay, that is what it is. So the mind undergoing Badha in the sense that the mind undergoing suffering is completely different from this. Yeah. Viparyaya is different. Viparyaya is a change in something. Viparya is a change in something. So like milk becoming curd is Viparyaya. That is also what is called Vikara. So we do not take Vikara, we have what is called Vivarta. Vivarta means apparent transformation. So a Vikara is a real transformation. So when we say that milk has become curd, the milk has actually become curd. What Advaitins hold is Vivarta. So Atattvatonyatha Pratha Vikara Vivarta Ityudahrataha. So a change that is not actually true, right? So the snake is, the rope is being seen as the snake. So the rope has become the snake, but that change is not true. Right? Atma has, or Brahman has become the Jagat, but that change is not true. So that is called Vivarta. That is what Advaitins hold.